the idea of what's happening in the market now is that most of you are more than likely seeing a pickup in the market. Most of you are more than likely seeing more properties coming to market, and you're seeing more buyers coming to market, and buyers getting realistic with the fact that they missed the last rodeo, right? Like they missed the opportunity before. Now they're coming on and they're getting into the opportunity today. Because truth be told, we don't know where the interest rates are going to go. We don't know what's going to happen. So it could be that interest rates go up to 8, 9, 10%. And the folks that buy now at 6.5, 6.7, whatever they're getting, are going, whew, I dodged the bullet. Thank goodness, right? The flip side that could happen is that interest rates could go back to 4. And what's the worst thing that could happen for that buyer? They refinance, lower their monthly payments. You know, maybe the property goes up a little bit. They get a little price hike and they do a little cash out and add a pool to the back. Like, there's so many different options that are happening right now. But buyers are not in a bad position today. And so it's a really good opportunity for you guys to kind of open your eyes to this. And if you're still somehow, living under a rock or behind a brick wall, and you have not realized that buyers are just getting accustomed to what's happening in the market today, then you need to open your eyes and get out there and start talking to more people, right? You got to talk to more people. Look, real estate's a contact sport. And today's class is really, I had a plan for something completely different, but you guys know that I coach one-on-one. I have one-on-one clients that I coach one-on-one, and at least 3 of those messages, 3 of those communications, 3 of those conversations had very similar messaging in it. So I just wanted to bring that messaging to the entire group and just really bring it to light. So first thing we're going to do is what we do every single Thursday. We go right to the chat box. We type in there, it's a freedom day. We can't miss that. It's a freedom day. Go into the chat box. Right into the Zoom chat box, type in there, it's a freedom day. Some of you may be joining us for the first time. Mike Convin, is this your first time joining us? Just give me a thumbs up if it is. I see you, so you can give me the real thumbs up. There you go. I know you were looking for the button too. Awesome. So if it's your first time joining us, we always go into the chat box. We always type, it's a freedom day. The reason that we do that is we want your body to accept the fact that you're in this training because you want to better your game, right? You want to hone in on your craft. You want to do better every single day. You want to beat who you were yesterday and bring the new you to the table so that you can introduce that to everybody in the world. And so we believe that everything that you're doing in your business is to develop the freedoms that you desire, whatever those freedoms may be. So welcome to our Thursday class. Now we're here every single Thursday, 11 a.m. So what we're going to talk about today is 3 parts to what every major successful business has. And the reason I want to bring this to light is because these particular parts people tend to forget. Why they tend to forget them? Because unlike getting a regular job, right? Like if somebody hires you as a sales rep for their business, you are a sales rep for their business. When you decide to go get your real estate license and you become self-employed, 1099 contracted, you make a conscious decision to now be the salesperson, the sales department, the customer service department, the management department, the janitorial services, the delivery person, the marketing department, the HR department. Like, you are now crafted into every department and you are responsible for all of this, especially if you're a new agent. When you're a new agent, there is you. And that's it. That's all there is. And some of you may have, brokerages that let me make this thicker so you guys can see it. Sure, that's better. There's you, right? And that's it. And some of you are aligned with brokerages that give you a ton of support and help and so forth and so on. But at the end of the day, you are marketing. You are sales. You are customer service. You are HR. You are janitorial. And for those of you that are newer to the industry and you're thinking janitorial, come talk to us old heads who have had to clean houses for pictures. Okay. Or come talk to us old heads who have walked into a final walkthrough 15 minutes in advance of our clients and looked at the room and said, oh shit, why does this house look like this? And frantically ran around the house, picking up and cleaning up and trying to make everything look better. Okay. We've all been there. We've all been the janitor at some point. Right. And so what happens is, because we decide to take on all these roles, by deciding to become our own entity, our own business in real estate, we as humans end up dropping the ball in certain places. And it's not until you can perfect how to keep all of this in check, which for me, there's only one way to keep everything in check, and that's the time block. To me, this is the only way you keep everything in check, because this is the opportunity where you get to go to your calendar and block off certain times to do certain tasks that are important for your business. End of story. And if you're really good at this, you start telling other people, if it's not on my calendar, it doesn't exist. That's like the phrase for everybody who follows their calendar, right? And so I can't tell you how many times I say that, hey, book on my calendar. If it's not on my calendar, it doesn't exist. Right. And so we say that over and over and over again. And it's almost like we're not trying to show off. We're trying to drill it back into our own heads so that we respect ourselves enough to follow the schedule that we've provided for ourselves. This is one of the tasks that I'll tell you that a lot of real estate professionals have a trouble with. Look, I will coach you and you will sit down in front of your calendar and you will block the times. It's great. Step number one, complete. Step number two, however, is to actually follow the calendar. And that's where a lot of people get frantic. Why? Because Joe and Jane want to see a house at 10 a.m. on Tuesday, and you have time blocked calling my past clients. And you frantically, because you need a deal, tell Joe and Jane, of course, I will show you that house on Tuesday at 10:30 a.m., although I had something already blocked. And so because you decide to let Jane and Joe, or Joe and Jane, control your schedule, on that day, you don't call your past clients. Next thing you know, you get used to ignoring your calendar. Next thing you know, you're never calling your past clients. Next thing you know, you're driving down the street and you see a house that you sold for sale. And you go, what happened? Or your friend invites you to a housewarming party that you had no involvement in, right? It happens, okay? So let's get into this real quick. I believe that every successful business has three major parts that can't be forgotten. Okay, we're going to talk about that today. Part number one, every major business has a great success with sales. So we're going to call them great sales team. Now, let's talk about this a little bit. If you're a real estate agent, who's your sales team? Type it in the chat box. If you're a real estate agent, who is your sales team? Type it in the chat box for me. You, 100%. You are the salesperson. By the way, it's not only real estate agents. If you decide to go into business for yourself, and you decide that you are going to sell a product or a service, you are your sales team. If you decide tomorrow that you're going to sell bicycles, you are your sales team. You are now responsible for getting rid of that inventory that you just bought and put into your store. Right? If you decide to sell t-shirts, if you decide to sell ball caps, you are the original sales team, right? You guys remember FUBU, Damon John, right? Right? Great story about FUBU and Damon John. Four guys got together, he decided to sell clothing. They sold t-shirts and hats and things like that. They used to actually sell it out on the streets They would put a blanket down in New York City. They would lay out all the shirts and the hats and everything. And as people walk by, they would look down at the blanket, check out the shirts. How did they get their big break? They went to an event that was a big fashion event that was presenting small businesses, and larger businesses were walking around checking out these small businesses and their products. And they couldn't afford to get into the event. So they rented a room. And when they rented the room at the hotel, then the four of these guys who are the owners of this company, and everybody knows Damon John now, right? Like the guy's super famous, super uber famous now, right? Now he's on, I forgot the name of that show, but he's on that show that invests in businesses, right? And so Shark Tank, there you go. He's on Shark Tank now, you know? So very wealthy person based on fashion, right? They rent the room, and the four of these guys decide, one of you stay back, the three of us are going to go in the lobby, and every time somebody walks out of this event, we're going to point them to the room and say, hey, there's additional stuff happening over there. And they would get people in there. They would get people in there. They would get people in there. And they got their first deal. And their first deal was Macy's. Macy's asked them to put a spot in every single one of their Macy's stores. The next hurdle that they had was they didn't have inventory for every Macy's in America, right? So they actually put out a newspaper ad asking for investors, right? This is back in the day, guys, newspaper ad, not social media ad. They put a newspaper ad out asking for investors so that to invest in their clothing line, saying they had a big deal, they had a big break, and so forth and so on. A very important, very wealthy person from another company saw that, called them, checked out their contracts, checked with Macy's, found out it was all true, invested a ton of money in them, and here they are today. But they were the original sales reps. Why do I tell you that story? Does Damon John still sell t-shirts from hotel rooms and street fronts? No, he doesn't. Does he take meetings with Macy's? Yeah, I'm pretty sure he does, right? Very different situation. So is he still in sales? Yes, but he's more in management now, isn't he? Right? And so this is the kind of stuff that I want to talk to you about, because every great business has a wonderful sales team. Some of these places, you look at Grant Cardone's office, you walk into his office and he's got 100 desks in there, and there's 100 people sitting at the desk with headphones on trying to sell people something. But you, as a real estate agent, you are the original salesperson, and you have to get the idea drilled into your head that you have to become really great at sales if you want to do this very well. I mean, you have to be really great at sales. You have to learn sales techniques. You have to really build out the appropriate sales techniques. So next week, we're going to talk about different closing methods, different ways to close people at different parts of the transaction. It's a very fun conversation. You guys are going to be a little shocked with some of the shit I say or some of the things that I will coach you on, but that's what we're going to focus on next week. So remember that. Then after you, there's an opportunity for you to grow, and you might get an admin, which is the smart thing to do, because if you get an admin, you can double down on what you do and grow your business by double. Now, here's the next step for you. You get a team member. Most of the time, that team member does not have the skill that you have been developing as yourself, and then yourself with an admin. You are now in charge with teaching this person how to become a great salesperson. Now it gets deeper than this, because you can take it to additional levels. For instance, you can have an ISA, which is an inside sales associate, or an IST, which is an inside sales team. What does that mean? That means that you have somebody working on only one thing, your CRM. All they do is receive your leads, communicate with your leads, talk to your leads, try to convert your leads to have a conversation or a meeting with you or your team members. That's what they do. This is your 100-person room with desks in it and somebody on the phone all day. Depending on how many leads you come in, It could be an ISA or an IST, right? So for instance, if you only have 50 leads a month coming in, you could go with one ISA. But if you have 1,000 or 2,000 leads coming every month because you're a heavy investor in that, then you might want an IST, which would give you 2 or more ISAs, right? And now, when you have 2 or more ISAs, there's a division of how this works. And I'm giving you this because I hope and pray that every one of you reaches goals, right? And so there's a division how an IST works, because you will have your normal ISAs, and then you will have an ISA manager. What is the responsibility of the ISA manager? Basically, their job is to listen to every phone call, look at manage the CRM, ensure that all the things are getting put into the CRM, tracking who is able to convert the most stuff, the most calls into appointments, and being able to track all this information. How did they learn how to track this? Because you taught them how, and that's going to be number 3. We're still on number 1. We'll talk about that in a minute, okay? Now, here's the other part. You get in there, and you are now with the IST, and this person, it's almost like you have to think about this like if you did have a room, because you can hire virtual assistants, you can hire people in other countries, you can hire people around the country. Like, honestly, like you could be in Florida and hire somebody in Texas to be your ISA, right? Doesn't matter. They just make a bunch of phone calls and communicate through text and update your CRM. So you could take this and imagine it as there's this one manager in the back of the room looking at the back of everybody's heads, right? And these folks are converting, and then they get one. One person says, yes, I'd like to schedule an appointment. They go, great, hold on 1 second. I'm going to transfer you to my manager. They're going to schedule that appointment for you. Manager comes in and says, hey, Carlos, how are you, man? Very nice to meet you. It's a pleasure. I hear that you're ready to book an appointment. I have, Peter's calendar right in front of me. Okay. When's a good day for you? Wednesday? Great. Seems like Peter has 2 p.m. and 4 p.m. available. Which one works for you? Great. What's your email? What's your phone number? Let me get you set up on this appointment. You'll receive a reminder, so forth and so on, right? This is the kind of stuff that an IST can do for you. But in the beginning, this is you. And you have to really perfect this. So stage number 1, every great business has a amazing sales team. In the beginning, unfortunately, you are the entire sales team. Okay. Now, step number 2. Let's take it up a notch. Number 2 is great customer service. Now, at some point in the future, you could have a customer service rep. Typically, for most people, that's like an office manager. When you're in real estate, particularly, that's like an office manager or an administrative assistant or senior administrative assistant, right? This is someone who could tackle the complaints, the stress, the things of that nature before it actually gets leveled up to you as a team leader. Okay, so let's say, John Smith Realtor is on your team and the person is having trouble with them. They need to know that there's a customer service number that they could call and say, I don't like working with this agent for whatever reason, and give us the opportunity to fix it. This is important because typically in our business, because we don't have this kind of service, we tend to lose people. When they don't like working with us, they just go somewhere else. And they drop us and they ghost us. It's happened to every single one of us, right? We think we're on a roll with somebody, and then we try to call them 50 times and they don't pick up the phone. And then they go, hey, sorry, went under contract yesterday with another realtor. Thanks for all your help, right? Happens all the time. Happened to one of my agents a couple of days ago, right? And so you have to learn how to provide the most amazing customer service. Now, some of the tips that I'll give you with customer service is, communication. Listen, communication is probably the biggest and most important piece when it comes to providing amazing customer service. Communication is where people oftentimes feel like real estate agents drop the ball. I have talked to so many consumers, and so many consumers have come to me and said, you know, I liked working with the other agent, but I never knew what was happening. Or how many of you have ever been to a listing appointment, right? And you go to the listing appointment, and at the listing appointment, they say, we've had the house listed before, and our agent did nothing. You've all heard this before. Now, here's the crazy part. There's a good chance that that agent did do a lot. There's a good chance that that agent did some social media ads. There's a good chance that that agent did some, marketing, built a nice website, promoted it in their CRM, called a bunch of realtors and told them about it. There's a good chance. But if that agent never communicated that information to the seller, well, that's on that agent. Now that agent is losing this listing rather than continuing with it because the sellers believe they weren't doing anything. One of the best ways that I love to communicate with my clients is WhatsApp. And the reason I love WhatsApp versus texting, number one, some of you guys have Androids and some of you guys have iPhones and some of you guys have Microsofts and things of that nature, right? And so a lot of times regular normal group texting doesn't really work well. You'll text people and it'll get separated, right? We don't want separation. WhatsApp works with every provider that you have all over the world, okay? I don't care if you are, with Jamame out of Puerto Rico or AT&T in New York. WhatsApp works on your phone. And with WhatsApp, what I like to do in there is you could create a group, and then I make the name of the group, the address, and last name of the family. And who's in this group? Me, if I'm their realtor. Me, if I'm their team leader. If one of the realtors on my team is the one that's working the deal, that person's in there as well. If it's a buyer and the lender, then the lender's in there as well, right? And then, of course, each of the responsible buyers or sellers, right? And that way, if you have two people, say husband and wife, and those folks are responsible for the sale or the purchase of the property, they're both signing. By having them both in the WhatsApp, you're communicating with both of them all the time, even if you have most conversation with just one. Does that make sense to you guys? Type yes in the chat box if that makes sense, right? Because by doing this, communication stays very strong to everyone, and there's no one that could say they missed out on something. I type in there when the inspection is, I type in there when the appraisal is, I type in there when we get responses from people. Everything is in there. So I give you that as a great opportunity for customer service. The next thing is in person, and I'm going to write this here because I believe that our business is still a people business, regardless of all the cool shit I showed you last week about AI and ChatGPT, regardless of all the great things that we can do in marketing, regardless of social media, regardless of WhatsApp and Trello and text message and every other thing that's out there for communication. Our business is a contact people sport. Okay? This is where most of us drop the ball. You need to be able to get in front of your people as much as possible. If you're working with someone and if you get a lead, your number one mission in life for this lead is to get in front of them. That is all your mission is. There is no other thing that you have to do other than get in front of them. Okay? You could talk to them. You could try to get them pre-approved before you meet them. You can do all that nonsense. But if you really want to know, you have to get in front of them. Lead comes in. Let's say your company sends you a lead, or let's say you get one on your website or whatever the case is. When you call that person, they pick up the other line and they go, hello. Your job is to go, Hey, Enrico, what's going on? I noticed that you were on my website looking at 123 Main Street. When would you like to go see it? Notice I didn't say, how you doing? Nice to meet you. I'm your local realtor, blah, 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 blah. I didn't even introduce myself. When would you like to go see it? Enrico says, I'd like to go see it tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. Man, Enrico, that's great. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hang up with you now, and I am going to confirm this appointment for you, and I'm going to call you back and let you know if we can go tomorrow at 6 p.m. By the way, my name is David Kurz. I'm going to text you now my contact information so that you could save it on your phone. So when I call you, you know who's calling you. Is that okay with you? What's Enrique going to say? No. Why do I ask if that's okay with you? Because I'm trying to pull as many yes answers out of Enrico as I can, right? First yes answer was, when would you like to go see this? He gave me agreement by saying tomorrow at 6 p.m. That is a yes answer, right? Then I finalized by saying, this is what I'm going to do. Is that okay with you? Then he turns around and says, absolutely. Yes, look forward to it. Fantastic. Did I ask him if he was working with another realtor? No. Did I ask him if he was pre-approved? No. Did I ask him if he, had time, this day? No. All I said was, when do you want to go see it? And I can check for availability. That was it. I hang up the phone. I call the listing agent. Hey, can I see it tomorrow at 6 p.m.? Yes, you can. Cool. I call Enrico back. I go, hey, Enrico, we're scheduled and booked for tomorrow at 6 p.m. I am going to text you the address and the information and everything so that we are meeting there tomorrow at 6 p.m. By the way, I'm going to call you sometime tomorrow morning just to confirm that we're good to go. Is that okay with you? Yes. Now I got some more yeses, right? So this is where I go for the kill. I go, Enrico, would it be cool with you if I booked maybe 2 more houses for us to see? Since we're going to be meeting each other anyway? Sure. Great. I booked 2 more houses. Now I go, Enrico, who will be joining us tomorrow? See, now I could open up the conversation a little bit. Enrico goes, well, I'm going to be coming with my wife and my 2 kids. Great. Fantastic. How long have you been searching for a house, Enrico? We just started. Fantastic. That's wonderful. All right. Well, let me ask you this. Final question. I'll leave you alone. Are you pre-approved for a mortgage already, or are you buying cash? Enrico says, no, we just started looking. Like, I don't even know what the next step is. You know what, Enrico? Don't worry. I am going to tie you together in a text message with my lender. She's amazing. And she's going to help you get pre-approved. Maybe you can have an answer by tomorrow night before we even go see the house, just in case you absolutely love it and you want to place an offer on it. Because truth be told, you may not understand this right now, but you will learn that we need to have you pre-approved before we can even place an offer on any property. So if you fall in love tomorrow night and you're not approved, we can't place an offer, right? Until you are pre-approved. So it's just kind of smart to get ahead of the game and get that stuff kind of worked out. Now, some of them are going to go through the pre-approval process and do it on time. Other folks are going to go, I don't know you yet. Let me meet you tomorrow. And guess what? That's okay. Right? So I had another person that I was having a conversation this morning with somebody, and that person said, well, I prefer to meet them at a Starbucks. I said, cool. What is the difference between meeting them at a Starbucks and doing a buyer consultation, or just meeting them at that first showing and doing a buyer consultation? And it sparks. Now, some of you may not feel safe going to that first showing at a vacant property, then choose a Starbucks. Great, get ahead of the game, right? But if you're meeting another agent there and it's owner occupied and et cetera, you're probably a little safe. All right. Mike, you have a question. Mike Convin, you have a question, sir. Unmute yourself.
Mr. Kurz, I have a question, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So, in my experience, maybe you can give me some guidance. I just don't want to get burnt. So, on the phone, I try to screen out the client, and if my instincts are telling me that they're BS, I won't move forward. But as far as the part for asking if they're working with another realtor, I always do, because I got burnt before showing them houses, and they lied about it. And then the procuring cause issue came into place. And at the end of the day, I had a case, and I had to go to arbitration, where another agent that showed them the house got the deal because they showed them first the same house. So how do you handle something like that? Do you just know your client, or take it based on instincts?
It's a great question. So first of all, liars are liars. So that's going to happen regardless of how we do this, right? Like, you do it my way or your way, people are still going to lie, which sucks. And sometimes those situations are unavoidable. However, when I do meet them, like, so the reason I asked Enrico who was joining us tomorrow was I was looking for, if one, all decision makers were going to be present, and two, if he says, oh, and my realtor. Right? But if he never mentions his realtor's coming, then the assumption is that the realtor is not coming. If I show up to the meeting, then I ask them at the showing, because that's when I'm going to do my pseudo buyer's consultation, kind of hood of the car buyer's consultation, right? I prefer to do it at that first showing if they're an online lead. And I ask them, have you guys been working with another realtor? So another question that I asked Enrico was, how long have you been looking for a house? He said, I just started, which means probably doesn't have a realtor. Had he said, man, I've been looking for several months, then my next question would have been, are you working with a realtor? But typically, I wait to meet them in person, and I ask them in person, are you working with another realtor? And then I explain to them the rules of how this works.
So
and
I
asked, what's that?
You never ask them on the phone, so you don't waste time?
Only if they say they've been searching for a while.
Okay.
Right? If somebody says to me, man, I've been searching for 6-7 months now, chances are they haven't just been screwing around Zillow for 6-7 months. Chances are they went out with some agent already, you know? And so then my next question, whether it be on the phone or in person, is why didn't you ask that real estate agent to show you these properties or this home? And then I get to understand why they're either A, stepping away from that realtor, or B, trying to be conniving about it. Most of the time, they say, you know, I haven't had any luck with that realtor. So I make it very, very clear. And I say, I just want to be 100% clear with you guys. I want to be your real estate agent. However, anything that I show you or we work on together, that's us. What I'm going to ask of you is that you don't work with any other realtors while you're working with me. I would rather know in advance and let you go about your business doing what you do, rather than commit to you if you're not committed to me. Can we be married? And I'm just very ultimate clear about it.
Yeah, you know, I don't know what state you're in. I'm in Virginia. Northern Virginia has they have a regulation or law. I think I can double check with NVR. But in Virginia, I learned that when I show a house, I try to ask. I can't make the prospect or the buyer sign. We have a disclosure called I forgot what it is, but if they sign it, it shows the property. You have to type in the property address on that. Yeah. They sign it. A lot of them don't want to sign it. So that's how I figured out if they really got an agent or not. Because usually if they don't, something's up.
Yeah. Yeah, and a lot of states have that. In Florida, we call it buyer agency agreement, right? But the buyer agency agreement, to me, it's kind of like toilet paper, because at the end of the day, in the agreement, it actually says you can cancel this at any time, right? With written notice or whatever the case is. And nowadays, written notice could be a text message. Hey, man, I don't want to work with you anymore. I'm out, you know?
Hey, Mike.
Now, does it protect you on the homes that you showed? Yes. You know, you just have to prove that you showed that home, do everything that the other agent did where you got burned.
I got you. Thank you.
Christine, jump in, please.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, Mike, I teach ethics in Virginia. I've sat on review panels for ethics hearings specifically regarding the procuring cause. And we've even had the state chief counsel come into our sales meetings to talk about it. If you want to have some conversation, because there are specific areas in Virginia that there are bigger challenges with this than others. and I can share with you some of the legalities and some of the workarounds to it. I don't know how relevant it is to the rest, so I don't want to take David's time, but your concern, your challenge is very real. So I'm happy to help any way that I can.
I would appreciate that.
Sure.
Yeah, and if you find that the challenge is extra in your state, then ask it on the phone, by all means. You know, for me, I'm more of a bull, right? So for me, I like to get in your face. I like you to like me, you know, enjoy the time that we spent together. And then I want that to help make the decision of the last guy I worked with. I'm just going to stop working with them. I'm going to start working with you, Dave, you know, and I'm clear about it. Hey, if they showed you a house, I can't double show you that house. Let's just be clear about that. And I'm assuming that if they showed you houses, you weren't interested in those because you didn't place offers on them. So we can continue to move forward, you know? And so I'm as crystal clear transaction, like see-through, you know what I mean? When it comes to this. But I believe that if I can get in front of somebody, I can win them over. Right. And like I said, here in Florida, the buyer agency agreement, all they got to do is text that person and say, hey, listen, I'm going to start working with somebody else. I won't work with you anymore. And that's it. Agency agreement's over, you know? And so most agents don't use them here. Most don't. Some do. Like in some cases, it makes people feel committed. But you know as well as I do, some folks work with a realtor, 6 months goes by, they can't get anything under contract, they get frustrated, they start venturing out. Sometimes it doesn't even take 6 months, it takes 9 days, and they're already venturing out, right? But, you know, there's this old funny saying, Christine would tell you, buyers are liars. So you got to be real careful with them. And you got to know how to poke and ask the right questions and put the psychology behind the sales technique. I hope that helps, Mike.
I'd add in that, David, that the stronger the relationship that you can build with these people too, the less likely they would be to lie. But certainly when you're working a Zillow call or a lead that is unfamiliar, one of the reasons I'm such a big fan of organic leads and working by referral, because there's some commonality. But when you're working with all of these leads, especially on a mass quantity, you got to build that relationship with them, because to David's point, they're going to lie at the drop of the hat. They don't care about what we do or how we get paid. They don't care about anything but themselves. If it's information that they want, that's all they want. You know, they don't care that you can let them in the house compared to me letting them in the house. So,
and it's that relationship that solidifies what I'm highlighting while she's talking, which is great customer service, right? We're in the people business. Again, contact sport, people business, right? So I'm going to get into number 3, because this is the most important one. And this is the one that's most widely ignored. And Jeff, you asked, you know, what do you say if they have a realtor? I hope we answered that during this process, brother. And so, you know, and to answer your question again, the number one question that I ask when they say, yes, I was working with somebody, I asked them, why did you not book these appointments with them? I'm just curious. And I get to understand what's going on. So most people will just divulge on that moment right there, especially in person, which is why, again, Mike, I love the in-person stuff, right? On the phone, they might be a little more hesitant, but when they're in front of you, they will just spill their guts, right? All right, so number 3, we'll tap into, and most important, every single successful business has, absolutely most important, the number one thing people hate to do and drop the ball on. They know their numbers. You have to know your numbers in this business. There's 2 parts to this. There is your sales numbers, and there are your financial numbers. Okay? There's a difference between the 2. If I know how many people I have to reach out to get X amount of contacts, to turn those X amount of contacts into X amount of appointments, to know how many of those appointments end up being a buyer side or a seller side. If I know those numbers very, very well, do you think that I could run a larger scale IST team or ISA team? Absolutely. Because I'm going to teach them the same exact tactics. The other question is, if I know those numbers very, very well, do you think that I'll know exactly how many calls and text messages I need to make if my goal is to pick up 4 new listings this month? Absolutely. Because what will happen is the longer you track this, the better you will become at knowing exactly what you need. If you want to double your business, you'll know exactly how many more calls you need to make. If you want to scale back a little bit, you'll know exactly what you need to do. And then if you get your team members to follow the same method and you get your ISA to follow the same method, you get to track where things are broken. What do I mean by that? They call and text. They're doing 100 calls a day and 100 calls, text messages a day, and they're contacting 50 people, but no one's converted to an appointment. That's where it's broken. And that's where you could train and retrain and solidify how you convert a contact into an actual appointment. By knowing these numbers, right? And then if your ISA team is making the appointments and your agents are failing to convert them into buyer or seller sides, then that's where it's broken. And you get to fix that. But more importantly, if you're a single agent right now, and I keep talking in the team balance because these things are important to know early on so you can adapt them to your team level later. When you're by yourself and you're tracking these at a very high level, you get to see where you're broken and you need more training and you need to make adjustments. You get to look at a week's worth or a month's worth and go, okay, I'm making a lot of daggone calls and I'm making a lot of contacts and I'm getting a lot of appointments, but I'm not converting a lot of buyers and sellers. Why is that? And you get to personally dig into that. You get to look for mentors or coaches or whatever's necessary to know your numbers at a very high level. The next thing is financial. You need to know your money numbers. The money numbers are important because the money numbers tell you where your money's going out to in your business and how that money has a return on investment for you. So if you're tracking your financials and you're tracking your contacts made and you're tracking where the business is coming from, you could say, okay, I'm spending $1,000 a month on Google PPC and $1,000 a month on Zillow ad spend. And you could see how many leads are coming in, how many of those are converting, how many of those are turning into appointments, how many of those are turning into buyer and seller sides. And you get to look at it and see, am I making a decent return on investment based on the amount of money that I'm putting into this? Same thing, and that's you personally. Same thing happens when you expand into the team level. When you expand into a team level and you have team members, you get to track their numbers. You get to see where your finances as a team leader are going, and you get to train and retrain your agents, and you get to decide which agents have to scale back on leads because they're not converting and which agents are really good. Here's another key factor that you get to track when you have a team. You get to track people's thresholds, because some people can work with 10 buyers at the same time, and some people can only work with 5 buyers at the same time. And you get to understand that threshold. When you send the 5-buyer person their 6th and 7th lead and you see them split up a little bit, you go, okay, let me scale this back a little bit because I understand what this person's threshold is of tolerance to work with people. While other people can do 10 and other people can do 15 at the same time, right? And so these are the 2 most important pieces. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you guys by email later on today or tomorrow. We're going to have a follow-up email that goes out. And by email, I'm going to send you guys my monthly tracker. And I'm going to send you guys our annual income and expense report. Okay. It's an Excel spreadsheet. It's basic. It's easy. And if you use this, guys, I promise you, every successful business tracks their numbers. Trust me when I tell you that when there is a call center with 100 people in it, and that's the salespeople that are in charge of selling a product, Trust me when I tell you that they work through a voice over IP connected to a CRM, and that CRM records calls. It transcripts it. It knows when you click a number to call it. It knows when you send a text message. It knows when you email. It knows everything. And a manager sitting in the back gets to see, okay, this person hit their daily goal. How do you think they came up with the daily goals? Because one day somebody started tracking their numbers and realized that if you do this many calls, you get this many sales. So everybody on the sales floor has a daily call goal so that they can hit a specific sales goal. So when they write those big numbers on the wall and they say our sales goal this year is X, they work those numbers backwards to figure out how many calls everyone needs to make every single day, how many employees they need to hit the right numbers. What is the threshold of people, right? Because you can't, if you need to make 2,000 calls a day, it's very difficult to hire 2 people and make them each call 1,000 people, right? Versus having the right amount of people, maybe 10 people calling 200 a day. That's a big difference. Okay. So you want people to be effective, and honestly, you just want them to be happy at their job as well, right? This is the kind of stuff that I'm going to share with you guys, and I'll show it to you real quick. I'm going to share my screen with you. So this first one that I'm going to send you is our monthly worksheet. Okay. What you will see here is that it's got it set up by week 1, 2, 3, and 4, and even 5, because some months have 5 weeks. And we go on days 1 through 7, 8 through 14, 15 through 21, and so forth, so on. You'll see in our example, we have the blue tools that say day of the month, totals for that week. So in here, I could say I made, 10 calls this day, 20 text messages this day that led to 5 contacts, that led to 2 appointments, that led to 1 buyer side and no seller sides. And you can track that. Then the next day you could see, well, I made 30 phone calls, 30 text messages, I had 10 contacts, 5 appointments, and I got 3 and 2 balance this time on buyer and seller side. And this is how you can track your numbers. And then what you do here is you put the active people that you are working with to convert into buyers, into contracts. When you have a seller that goes into contract, that goes into a transaction sheet, right? Which in the back of the sheet here, you'll find pending deals. Okay. And then you'll find closed deals. And all of this goes month by month, January, February, March, April, it's all on the bottom. The instructions are right here in the front, and I'm going to send this to everybody, and I'm going to challenge you guys. Use the sheet, right? And try to give yourself an opportunity to track your numbers at a very high level so that you can become significantly more successful in today's market. Next piece I'm going to send you is this one here, which is our annual business budget. Here you'll track your income, you'll track your expenses, and you'll have a summary that will figure out everything for you. So you'll know exactly where everything went, how it was spent, and where you need to scale back or where you need to input more, because it's not always scale back. People think you do this to scale back, but as you're running a business, you're going to understand that there are going to be some places where you go, okay, well, this system's working really, really well, and I have a really great conversion point on that. So I know I'm spending this much money, I'm having this many conversations, and I'm converting this many people into contract. If that's the case, and I want to double that, then how much more do I need to spend? Or if I want to triple that, how much more do I need to spend? Right? And it's not always double the money. Sometimes it's just 25 or 30 or 40% more. Okay. And that's how you're going to see and be able to track your financials. And this is going to be really good for you guys. So I'm going to send this by email here shortly in a little bit. Okay. All right. Does anyone have any questions for me before we close out? It's 11:57. I love to be super respectful and on time. Anyone have any questions for me before we close out? All right, guys, man, have a fantastic, fantastic Thursday. Have a great rest of the week. I'll see you guys next week. Again, we're here every Thursday, 11 a.m. Super excited to see you guys, man.